Frederick Douglass hit the nail on the head when he said power concedes nothing without demand. And there's nothing malicious about it. It's just the way systems work. Because if I have all of the power in a given system, any change invariably means some sort of loss for me. Therefore, change is bad. Power majority will always be conservative. But what does that look like in the wake of the plague? Come on. I'll show you. So the Richie Riches of medieval Europe are trying to pretend that nothing is wrong as everybody is dropping like flies around them. They're continuing on with their jousts and their feasts, and a gay old time is had by all. As a matter of fact, the 100 Years' War between France and Europe is still humming right along in the middle of all of this. I'm sure armies mutilating one another and burning crops as they go really slowed the spread of disease. However, we have to be careful not to pass judgment on the upper crust when it comes to ignoring the plague. Barbara Tuchman notes a conspicuous absence of the plague in all popular literature. For example, Chaucer's Canterbury Tales mentions the 100 Years' War repeatedly, but makes few references to the plague. And he's writing as it's going on. I kind of liken it to our treatment of COVID in popular media. My theory is our collective psyches treat this as such an anomalous event, and when people look back and consume this media, if we reference a lockdown, they're not going to know how to relate. Pandemics aren't a part of the normal human condition, but wars sure as hell are. We can write about those forever. Either that, or it's just so fucking horrible nobody wants to talk about it. Either way, the rich and the poor are putting blinders on and trying to function in a society that is crumbling around them. For the poor, this meant feeding your family. Now, the rich might face this issue as well. Food insecurity was something everybody experienced, but not to nearly the same degree. Instead, they were more concerned about maintaining their lifestyle. I mean, their place in society is never at risk, since that's ordained by God and can't change. But circumstances sure as shit can. This is where we come to a bit of a crossroads. Because at the present time, those two ideas seem mutually exclusive. Because it turns out food is scarce. That's what happens when half the population is there to grow it, and the other half is all depressed at losing that half. But with food scarce, that means prices go up. And that means I need to demand more pay for my labor. Listen, boss, it's nothing personal. I got kids at home. However, if I'm trying to maintain a crapulent lifestyle, paying extra wages to my laborers does not seem ideal. And so much like in the pandemic, we absolutely love our essential workers. There's no way we could have done this without you. How can we ever repay you? They say, how about repaying us with, pay? And then the elite ruling class said, not like that. Here's a pizza party, you ungrateful fucks. England's version of this is passing a law freezing wages at pre-plague levels. Essentially, the government is sticking their fingers in their ears and saying, la la la, that didn't happen. Yes, the fact is there is a labor shortage. Yes, the fact is prices are high. But it turns out your feelings might not care about facts more than the other way around. The thought of losing something you once had seems unbearable. And so, if you have the option at all, you refuse. And it turns out almost every single person on the planet Earth operates like this. Let's say you get an unexpected windfall and have to pay taxes on it. Somehow you feel cheated by getting money you didn't expect in the first place, because I could have had more. Now, it's hard to sympathize with people like this, but also if you've gotten used to maintaining a certain lifestyle, we might roll our eyes at having to give some of that up, but having to adjust a lifestyle is a psychic hurdle most of us don't want to overcome. Rich people are just able to avoid it more. But you will also rarely find a person who is willing to give you something out of the kindness of their heart. Children have to be taught how to share, usually through the threat of force by a peer or an authority figure. And we learn from an early age that authority figure will always be there. But what if you are the authority figure? And if you don't want to share, nobody's going to make you. How much are you really willing to inconvenience yourself? The answer is probably not much, unless you're forced to. And in 1381, the English peasants forced their hand. So in the 14th century version of Occupy Wall Street, the English peasants marched to the king and demanded fair pay. And you'll never guess what the king said. Until next time.